Welcome to Small Business 21st Century. Hi, I'm your host, Don Moragne, for this session of the Wealth Zone University. Thank you for coming to hang with us. I've got a guest today who you've met before. He's one of the smartest accountants that I know, and I say that with a smile because it's true. Deon Norris.
Thank you very much.
Welcome for coming back.
I appreciate it.
Tell our audience a bit about who you are and what your company does, my friend.
So for those who may not remember when I was on the show, I am an Army veteran, been in 14 years, active duty and reserves. I currently own the Norris Group, officially known as Norris Accounting and Tax Services, DBA is the Norris Group. I live in Washington, D.C. area, married, have a child, one years old.
All right.
So that's a little bit about my background.
The 2nd of this month. Oh, all right, fantastic. So at the first session that we had with Deon, we talked about how he was expanding his business. In the last couple of sessions, we've talked about valuing businesses, selling businesses, negotiating, all of those things from a mechanical side. Deon is what I called a new accountant. He is an entrepreneur who just happens to be an accounting expert.
Yes.
And he's actually expanding his business through acquisitions, which is something that we didn't talk about. But I wanted to talk about it real life with Deon because he's actually doing it. So Deon, how many companies have you bought so far, and what type of companies were they? Accounting firms, tax firms? Tell me about that.
So far it's been one company officially purchased.
Okay.
And talks of another one to potentially merge or acquire them in whole.
Okay.
And probably about 15 different companies that I've seriously talked to.
Wow.
So it's been a wide range. They've ranged from tax preparation only firms to accounting focused firms. But the company that I purchased and ones that I've actively looked into purchasing are ones that are a mix of both, whereas tax work and accounting work as well.
Does it matter where in the country they are? Do you have a focus, a strategy that you're trying to accomplish?
So personally, I don't have a preference where the firms are. As long as they fit the culture and it makes sense, it can be located anywhere. With the advent of technology, you don't have to be physically located next to your employees and vice versa. So that I'll say it's open-ended wherever the firm is located.
Okay. So you mentioned culture. Tell us about this culture that they have to fit into your target acquisitions.
Yes. So it's one that breeds creativity and entrepreneurship. What I found is coming from a Big Four background, it's kind of embedded.
And Big Four
is KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, and E&Y. So
okay,
you're
those
big
are the
auditing
major
accounting
major
firms
accounting and auditing firms. So he's a brain from a group of brains.
Yes. So having that background, business development and entrepreneurship and seeing opportunities has always been ingrained in me. And what I'm looking for are people who not only have the technical skills, but know how to see opportunities when speaking with clients. And that's kind of the culture I'm looking for, is not so much upselling clients all the time, but looking at what we can do in their best interest to help them ultimately with their goals. And whether it's just filing a return, doing their monthly accounting, or ultimately saving them on taxes or anything in between, I want people who can read between the lines and fill in those gaps, and that can help the client.
So when you're looking, so let's talk about the first firm that you have already acquired, okay? How did you identify that firm? How many firms did you look at in that first acquisition process? Talk about that process for me, buddy.
So I would say there's a couple ways to identify firms. There's if a firm goes on the market, so that's essentially when they hire a broker and a broker puts it out on the market. Same thing as a real estate agent. And then there is off-market firms where you're talking directly with the owners. So the firm that I already acquired was one that was on market that I got a lead from a broker who was representing them.
Okay, and that's a business broker, as opposed to a real estate broker. And we talked about business brokerage in the prior session on exit planning.
Yes. So when the email went out, it was just a profile of the firm. So all you get is a couple of your tax returns with everything blanked out, some financial statements to read, and then kind of a breakdown of their clientele. Is how I ended up looking into this firm. It interested me on paper, and then I reached out to the broker. I would like to speak with the owners about why they're looking to sell, and see if it will be a good fit from there. And that's how we started having conversations with the sellers who sold me their firm.
So your first contact was the business broker.
With the business broker.
And then then the business broker put you directly in touch with the firm, or you dealt with the business broker for a while on some issues?
So it was an email, one email to the business broker.
Okay.
And then they set up a meeting between myself and the sellers for an initial phone call. And then after that phone call, I was dealing directly with the sellers. And then we were keeping the business broker in the loop as the deal went on.
Okay, great. So let's talk about that first conversation with you. Let's assume that I am the company that you just bought. What did we talk about? What did you ask me?
So it was just understanding them. It was two sellers. Understanding them, how they built their firm, the reasons for selling, because it can be a wide range of reasons. That's most important. I want to find out why they're selling. And then it was the makeup of their clientele, and then the makeup of their employees, and kind of what they envision, who they envision selling their company to. And then I laid out a little bit about myself, my firm, currently what we're doing, and my vision for what I see for their firm, and ultimately my firm combined, where we're going to be at 5-10 years from now.
So do these principles that you were talking about, do they come along with the firm, or are they move it out of the firm once they give it to you?
So they're still currently in a contractor capacity,
okay, yes.
But we're actively phasing them out,
okay.
Because the reason they want to sell is they're near retirement age or at retirement age, so they no longer wanted to run the firm. But what was crucial in keeping them on is client retention. So I saw that as a key to keep them on and get some knowledge, insight, and background about the clients to build that rapport with them as we ultimately start phasing them out, so they can do what they want to do, and that's go enjoy their retirement.
Okay, so let's stop and talk about two things. One, the principles of the target firm are now on contract with you.
Yes.
And that's for client retention.
Yes.
So let's explain to the audience what client retention is and why it's so vital.
So it's vital, one, because of money. Ultimately, all deals are based on a set price, but the way we structure the deal, which most deals are structured, is there's some type of clawback as it relates to the overall price.
And
so
clawback means?
Meaning we can renegotiate after a set period of time on what the
okay.
purchase price will be.
Okay.
And the key to that is revenue. So I kept them on in a capacity to make sure we achieve that target percentage with revenue, so we don't have to claw back the selling price, because otherwise, if we had to do that, then they would have to give money back to myself, which personally, more money back to me, I would appreciate. But with the sellers, they want to keep their money. So that's why it was very important to keep them on for client retention, to ensure we're hitting a certain revenue target, but also so there's some familiarity with the old clients that are transitioning into the new way of doing things as well.
So let's talk about that. Client retention basically is, I've got 1,000 clients. Once I sell to you, they don't know you.
Yes.
And so you're keeping me on so that I can help you make that transition with them to you.
Yes.
And the clawback is, the more of my clients that I retain, the less money I have to give back to Deon.
Yes. Yes.
Because they didn't come over. And so the reason that Deon's keeping us on contract as opposed to salary is because you don't want that long-term commitment.
Yeah.
You just need the former buyers on for as long as they need to get that retention.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And it also helps having that familiar face when there's something new. Because one of the hardest things to do is for people in general is change. So having that familiar force during the change process goes a long way to retain those clients.
And client retention is important because I've been working with this person for 5 years.
Yes.
I don't even know you, you know? And so having that ability to make that transition makes everybody comfortable and ensures that the client will want to stay with you, which is the ultimate revenue goal, right?
Yes. As you said, I don't know the clients, so when I purchased them, they've been giving me the backstory and history of how long they've been a client, certain tendencies of the client, how they like things presented to them, et cetera. So is that historical knowledge that I otherwise wouldn't have is the main reason of keeping the sellers on, so I can understand, so I can meet the clients where they're at in terms of what they're used to, at the same time implementing changes and not trying to rock the boat as much.
And so that's really important when you're at the negotiating table, to make sure that you have the ability to transition properly,
Yes.
both the company and the clients. But you also have a clause in there in case it doesn't work.
Yes.
And so tell us about the clawback clause.
So the way we structured the deal was 80-20. So it was 80% of the money up front at time of closing. Excuse me. And then the other 20% was related to that clawback.
Okay.
So the way it worked is ultimately when I took out the loan, the entire amount was dispersed. But the sellers did not receive the entire amount based off of that clawback. So we set it up structured wise where we have a 14-month period from closing for in the next 14 months to do a review of total revenue, clients, et cetera, that I'll meet with the sellers about. Like we hit our 95%, which is the target market of top line revenue from the previous 12 months. As soon as we do that, then they can receive the rest of the money when we agree on that. So it's an important aspect to protect me as the buyer, but also to protect the sellers and make sure they have a vested interest in making sure that this transition goes well.
Yes, that's vital. So let's continue along that vein, if you don't mind, Deon. The clawback provisions, the keep retention provisions, all of those, are those things that you and your team worked out before you got to the table? How did you arrive at 80% and the other numbers that you came up with in terms of what you were going to negotiate and accept at the table?
So generally in any business purchase, there's a letter of intent that lays everything out. That is the foundation for what the sale will be. So during that letter of intent is where we ironed everything out, like all the major dynamics in terms of purchase price, what the clawback percentage was, how long that look back period will be, if there's any indemnity clauses, insurance, things of that nature. Your major aspects of the deal were all laid out in that letter of intent that I signed and both sellers signed.
Okay, but your team developed the letter of intent along with your business broker, I assume.
Yes. So I hired my own lawyer for this because they're legal documents. So I made sure I had I hired an independent third-party lawyer. They had their lawyer as well. So during that LOI period, it was
LOI,
letter of intent. Yes.
Okay.
During that period when they asked for clarification, certain wording, I found out that certain words mean something different in the legal sense.
Absolutely.
So the lawyers got involved to make sure that we agreed on the wording. When I didn't understand what they wanted, my lawyer was able to break it down in simple terms. This is what this language is saying, et cetera. If I was okay with it or not okay with it, it'll ultimately be up to me. But she was able to help me during that process to ensure my interests were looked after, as well as the sellers had their lawyer to make sure their interests were looked after.
Of course. So you had a lawyer, a business broker.
Yes.
Of course, you're the accountant, so you
Yes.
had the tax and finance piece. Was there anyone else on your team?
So ultimately, the bank as well on my side. Me being the purchaser. Yes. Me being a purchaser, I had the bankers that I was communicating with every step of the way, because those documents are needed for them, because first they want to understand how much the purchase price is. How do we get to that, and then from a financial aspect, making sure that cash flow wise, it will support the purchase price.
Okay.
So they did their due diligence during that process, where I was in communication with them, how much we're purchasing for, kind of what I was thinking, and then my lawyers were also in communication with them as well.
So we're going to take a break here in a couple of minutes, but the most important thing I want you to get across is that even though Deon is an expert accountant and knows taxes and finance, he made sure that his team built out for those things that he wasn't an expert in. An attorney, a business broker, the bank.
Yes, bank. I forgot insurance agent as well.
An insurance agent as well.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Just remember one thing. This is a smart guy. The objective of the Wealth Zone University is to change your mind about money, to change your financial future. Hi, I'm your host, Don Moragne. In the Wealth Zone University sessions, my guests and I talk about a wide variety of business, financial, and other worldly topics. We are seeking to both educate and entertain you. We emphasize that the information and discussions are my opinion, perspectives, and ideas, and those of our guests. We in no way intend to deliver or provide financial, tax, or business advice. You should consult with your tax, accounting, financial, insurance, and legal advisors regarding the impact, application, or pertinence of any topic or opinion that we share on the Wealth Zone University. Welcome back. This is the second session, and we're having a real good discussion with my protege and main man here, Deon Norris, who again is the accountant of the future. So make sure that you understand that this young man is not only an expert accountant, but he's an entrepreneur who's doing some amazing things with his company. Deon, before we left, we were talking about the team that you put around you when you, even though you have all these areas of expertise yourself, you made sure that you expanded your team to bring in experts in other areas. Tell me about who's on your team.
Yeah, so a lot of times you'll hear the term BEL, meaning banker, accountant, insurance agent, lawyer. That's exactly who I had on my team. Obviously, I did the accounting aspect, me being an accountant CPA by nature, but the legal aspect, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know law. So that's why I brought in the lawyer.
Yes.
Obviously, the banker to finance the entire transaction. And then the insurance agent brought in because they understand how to protect this sale that is happening, and also how to protect yourself as well from any potential lawsuits and things that we may not be thinking about as we're trying to make a purchase. They're thinking about protection as overall. Wow.
So let's say it again. BEL.
Banker, accountant, insurance agent, lawyer.
Lawyer. That's an acronym that we've got to remember. I wish I would have known that when we were doing the other sessions, but I didn't call Deon, so he didn't call me back. But BEL. So banker, accountant, insurance
agent, and lawyer.
Wow. And so you selected these people based upon your relationships and their expertise, and you brought them to the team. Did you use the same team every time, or you?
Yep, I got the same people for every deal, potential deal that we're looking at, where they understand how I operate and kind of what the vision is. So they fully understand from their end what needs to happen, and they tell me what I need to get them in order to make a deal happen.
Now, why is the insurance person on your team?
It's important because, one, you want to make sure that you have the various insurance, workman compensation, general liability, insurance, things of that nature. But one thing that the insurance agent brought up that I didn't think of is something called trail insurance. Essentially what that is there's a time period, especially when filing taxes or doing things, that something may come up that I had nothing to do with, that the previous owners did, but because I acquired everything, that they may come after me. So it's a period of maybe 5-10 years where you have trail insurance to indemnify you against anything that may potentially happen.
Okay, extremely important. It's something that we didn't talk about when we were talking about forming your team. So thank you, Deon, for bringing that to us, because that is vital. Yes. Absolutely vital. So now you've got this team. I assume that you're the lead of the team.
Yes.
All right. He's a brainiac, so and the thing that we told everyone is that there are no emotions at the negotiating table.
There can't be.
It's all fact.
Yes.
Okay.
There can't be.
It's all fact. So, but you have purchased a firm, but you've looked at several firms, and you're still looking at firms. Tell us about what you are looking for in those firms. You mentioned your culture. You mentioned that it doesn't really matter where around the country that you work. What's your goal, Deon, your expansion goal for the Norris Group?
So the goal is to become a national firm, and then become a global firm.
Okay.
But in order to do that, inorganic growth is needed, and that's acquisitions as well as organic growth, just naturally growing. But when it comes to inorganic growth, it's a lot more important where that culturally things mesh. So what I mean by that.
So what is inorganic growth versus organic growth?
Yeah. So inorganic growth is things that didn't happen naturally. So let's say I had 100 clients one year, and then we naturally grew to 300 clients. That's organic growth.
Okay.
Inorganic growth is essentially you're acquiring clients or acquiring another business in order to grow.
Okay.
So businesses do both sets of growing, both organic and inorganic, but the quickest way to grow is inorganic growth, because you're already buying something that's established.
Right. Okay. And so, tell us how you approach when you're looking at the firms that you've already talked to and the ones you're going to talk to. Tell us your approach. What are you looking for? What do you want? What do you see? What attracts them to you?
So, one is the size of the firm in terms of revenue, if it fits kind of where we want to go. I don't want to acquire a firm that's too big, because it comes with two big problems, and I don't want to acquire a firm that's too small either. So it's kind of a sweet spot revenue-wise of what we're looking at. Then from there, it's essentially called, may have heard the term EBITDA.
Yes.
And SD, which is self-discretionary earnings. Essentially,
EBITDA is accounting firms.
Yes, accounting firms.
Terms. So don't worry about it.
To sum it up, essentially, looking for cash flow back to the owner. And then it is the makeup of the clientele, and then the makeup of the team as well. So with the firm that I did acquire, they are older, so near retirement age. So that's something that I knew going in. The owners, okay. And including most of the employees as well.
Okay.
Are can retire within the next 5 or 6 years. So that's something that I knew going in, that I need to actively recruit younger people into the firm. So there's an overlap from the older employees, knowledge base and how things are happening, and then with the younger crowd that's going to be with the firm for the longer period of time.
Okay.
And then also culture is really, really big. And what I mean by that is, let's say my firm, I'm all for remote work and hybrid work environment where I don't want anyone physically having to go into the office if they don't want to go in the office. It's always going to be an option, but you can choose to work how you want to work as long as the work gets done. Where if I acquire a firm that's used to going into the office 5 days a week, culturally that is a shift that's going to butt heads naturally. When I'm trying to give people freedom, but they're used to a certain way. So, and not only that is the how they talk to one another inside the firm.
Yeah.
Is it a professional environment, or is it one that's not as professional, where they may talk in an unprofessional manner?
Yeah.
So all these things are important, because the purchase price may look good, and employees may look good on paper, and that money come back to you may look good. But culturally, if it's not a good fit, it's going to lead to a lot more problems than anticipated, and it's something that needs to be looked at very, very intently, because you don't want to be in a situation where, yes, I'm trying to implement all these things, but you're having pushback from the employees or set of things you're trying to implement. So that's why culture is a very, very big fit on currently how they operate and what the employee and sellers' expectations are for how they see themselves in a new firm.
So let's stop there. You're talking to me about my firm. How do you determine what the culture in my firm is? Do you go past me? Do you spend some time at my company?
So
how's that
it's
happen?
Mainly speaking to you,
okay,
but also just randomly going into the office location.
Okay. Like a site visit.
Yeah, like a site visit.
Okay.
Just trying to pick up on things, how people communicate with one another, how the office looks, down to, is there papers everywhere? Do you have people have a sense of pride in their workstation? How does the break area look? These are little things, but they go a very long way with the culture. So if we are a firm that is all about how we look and how we portray ourselves.
Which you are.
Yes. That goes a long way with how our break room area looks, how our workstations look. Because if we have to go in there and we have to clean things up, it may take longer for some people to get there. So those are the little things that may seem little, but to get magnified over time, especially when you make that transition process. It can make the transition easier, or it can make it a lot more rocky.
So a site visit is part of your due diligence. Okay. And so the multiple firms that you are talking to, what is the first thing you look for? Whether or not they're compatible with your growth strategy, and then culture comes next?
Yes.
Is that what?
Yes. Whether they'll be compatible, and then their culture, and then I want to see what the clientele makeup is and how they're actually making their money.
Okay.
Is it heavy focus on tax returns, which is essentially two times out of the year during tax and during extension season, or they have a lot of accounting work? Are they doing other things that have cash flow during the course of the year to even things out? Natural ebbs and flows of a small business. So those are things I'm looking at, where if it's too heavily concentrated, or let's say they're receiving most of their money from maybe a centralized set of clientele, then that's more risky. Because with that transition process, if most of their income is coming from a certain period or clientele, what happens if they leave? And then and if that happens, there's still a loan note that's due. How would that loan be supported? So if a firm is too heavily concentrated in one area, it becomes too risky. And especially with where the industry is going with the advent of technology, firms are starting to shift the makeup of their clientele to more subscription-based models or monthly models versus just once a year income during the tax season. So if a firm's already doing it, it makes it a lot more attractive. And also another thing that makes acquiring firms attractive is when looking at it, how involved are the sellers? Meaning, are they the workhorses of the firm? If they are the workhorses of the firm, that instantly becomes a firm that I don't want to acquire, because that means the sellers are doing too much and did not empower people or have the right people in place to sell the firm. And where we're transitioning to is I'm becoming the CEO where I have other people running the firm for me. That we're in a transition process right now to do that, where that becomes more attractive, because from a buying standpoint, if I can buy something that's already running, I don't have to do anything, that is a lot easier to sell and is a lot more attractive for me to buy, knowing I don't have to make any changes at all.
And that brings us to two things: due diligence, which is absolutely mandatory, and what you do with your team. But in addition to that, you take that due diligence one more step. You actually go to the company on site and deal with their company and their employees. And so, I mean, due diligence, in your words, we think due diligence is probably the most important thing going before you get to the table. How do you feel about due diligence?
It's very important and it's vital, because due diligence is just you digging in and understanding what's going on. That can be the quality of work papers, or is there work papers? If there is there a structured form, or is there SOPs?
Standard operating procedure.
Yes, operating procedure. How involved are they with technology? Are they paper-based? All these things give you a feel for what needs to change, and also if it is possible to change as well. Because if you acquire a firm that is very old school and there's a lot of training that needs to happen, you have to factor that into the purchase price, or even training that needs to happen in the future. So that is where your due diligence, you're really digging in to truly understand what you're buying as well. And then down to the tax software. Is it compatible with what I'm using?
Doing? Absolutely.
Or do we have to train people on new tax software, et cetera? So there is a lot that is placed on due diligence for a reason.
Well, Deon, thank you. Deon said something that's really important that the Wealth Zone University drills into you. Deon is working to become the CEO.
Yes.
He wants to be the one who's actually running the whole show, but gives everybody else the authority to do their job and do it well, but accountable to you.
Yes.
And that's why we always tell you, we address you as CEOs because we want you to think like a CEO. This young man is doing everything that all of you should be thinking about doing. Deon, I'm proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Keep looking for him. When we first met him, he was Norris Accounting and Associates. Now he's the Norris Group, and he's growing. And absolutely, if you want someone to show you how to do it right, Deon Norris is your young man. Thank you, Deon.
Thank you very much.
We will see you next time. Thank you, and remember, the queen is before you get to the negotiating table. The king is when you're there. Bye.